How are you, everyone? Hope you are doing well and healthy during this pandemic time. Thank you, Bu Zakia, for the chance giving it to us to present our paper on the effect of stunting in human capital in Indonesia by using the evidence of Indonesian Family Life Survey. Yes, this is maybe not the only papers discussing about stunting in this conference, but I believe that the papers presented on this topic will complement each other, because the other papers might taking a different perspective on the determinants of stunting, while this paper concern on the effect of stunting. It is stunting is very crucial issue. It is one form of malnutrition that the world priority to overcome, along with the other 5 types of malnutrition. As one of the most important obstacles in the development of individuals' growth, stunting is a risk marker that threatens the quality of health, productivity, and the livelihood for more than 100 million children under 5 in the world. Even though it appears in a height that is too short compared to children at his age, that sometimes neglected by communities and policymakers, it is actually a marker for chronic malnutrition.
I'm sorry, Miss Esta, you haven't shared the screen or the PPT.
Oh, sorry. sorry. Excuse me. Sorry. I think this presentation makes me nervous. Let me see, where's the, okay, here. Can you see my presentation? Ellen, is it already there?
Yes, but yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my mistake. So I'll continue with this.
Please.
Right. Okay, I'll continue. It is a very crucial to talk about stunting because of its long-term and the consequences is actually inherited intergenerationally, and sometimes it is neglected by the communities and policymakers because of it looks like only the short statures that can be it is common in some communities, but actually it is a marker for the retardation in the growth of somebody's of individuals health, and that is impair the growth of vital organs, and then finally will increase the risk for mortality and morbidity that reduce someone's productivities. It is predicted that it can reduce 20% of lifetime income and also 3% of economic growth reduction. Even though it is a health issue, but actually it is a reflection of socioeconomic problem due to welfare inequality as a result of poor development progress. In economic perspective, the study of the stunting is not directly or explicitly examined because economics already focus on different aspects of stunting, which is height and wage premium. It is very common in labor economics. But one of the most cited papers is Life at the Top by the Angus Deaton, which explain about a survey in the US that a person with more height have a comfortable or privilege in various aspects in his life, such as social acknowledgement and access to labor markets, so that they have tend to have a higher income. And this evidence is actually a truth in across the countries, including in Indonesia, such a study by Son in 2015. It is related. It is explained in efficiency wage theory by Levinson in 1950s that assume that people with well-nourished and better health status is positively related to their productivity and strength. Therefore, it can become a signal for wage markets. And the other issues that the economists interested in the issue of the malnutrition is to seek the negative association between economic shocks, such as pandemic, wars, and famine, with the adult's economic outcome. So this is a more long-term studies to see the impact of the shock, but they don't really explain about what happened during the shock, which is actually explained by fetal origin hypothesis that assume that development in the womb shape the future health condition of an individual decades after in adulthood. So the economic studies, even though they're very rich in that kind of studies, but they don't really explain how height can be impact or giving effect of the adults in outcome. And then also they don't really explain about how much height would provide different outcomes. And if we see further, it is very related to the models, human capital models by Grossman, which mentioned that health is very crucial to form a human capital. As we know that sometimes human capital is associated with education, but recently many studies shows that health, including nutrition, also provide significant contribution for shaping human capital. It is because health is an investment, like Mr. and Baker explained decades ago, that actually someone's human capital is a form of investment. And nutrition is a unique investment because it is actually not conducted by the person itself, but actually by someone else, which is their parents. And related to the stunting, that because of stunting happens in the first 2 years of somebody's life, so it means that it is very closely related to the parental effect. And the parental effect is very well explained by Curry and Black in their paper Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, and Apple Doesn't Fall from the tree that shows that parental socioeconomic status will affect children's nutritional status and finally their education and income in adulthood. So all of that studies actually explain that early life is a determinant of adults' outcome. So the motivation of this research is, if we see the literature, even though the economic studies have abundant studies on the height and the impact of shocks in malnutrition to the adult outcome, but not much done for studies explicitly talking about stunting itself. So maybe there's only less than 20 papers discussing this issue. So this paper aims to fill that gap. And different from the current literatures, our study tried to exercise various statistical methods to find out the most appropriate models that explain the data and to find out the robust and rigorous analysis. And then also the stunting, the outcome is also expanded, not only in economic outcomes in terms of monetary, but also in social and well-being aspects. And the study is carried out in Indonesia because there's no study about Indonesia, the impact of stunting in Indonesia as our knowledge. And there's only the Philippines, maybe one of the Asian countries that focus on this area of study. It's also enriched the literature about stunting in Indonesia because if we seek the studies in Indonesia mainly talk about determinants and the risk factors of stunting, as well as the double burden malnutrition. But maybe there's only one that concerned about the effect of stunting related to sanitation by Cameron recently. This is a short brief about the context of stunting in Indonesia. As we see that Indonesia is actually lag behind its peers in the Asian countries. We just comparable to Laos, maybe, because the prevalence of stunting is relatively high in Indonesia. And even though the trend is declining, it is still far above the standard of WHO, about 20%. So the objective of this study is we try to find out the association between stunting and human capital in various forms. What kind of human capital we examine here is consists of cognitive performance, education achievement, income and expenditure, wealth and poverty, as well as well-being. We apply 5 waves of Indonesian family life survey. So basically, we retrieve data for children under 5 years old from 2 cohorts, wave 1 and wave 2, and then we pull them all together, and we find the outcome data in 2014, or otherwise those who completed all the information of outcomes in education, salary, and other welfare indicators. But also we use mediators data, especially for cognitive, in 2000 and 2007 to seek for the impact of cognitive in different stage of life, school-age children, adolescents, and adulthood. And then this is the exposure variables. We divide stunting into 2 variables, not only the dummy variables of the stunting status, but also the height for age Z-scores according to WHO in 2006. And then the outcome variables consist of several variables. The cognitive is cognitive performance in 3 waves. And then education is years of schooling and a level attained, as well as failing grades or repeated education. And then the labor market outcomes in income and expenditure and welfare consists of poverty status, wealth index, life satisfaction, and happiness. We also control for individual, parental, and household characteristics. Okay, we use estimation, 3 estimation models, full regression, as well as probit and probit. We adopted from Victoria et al. And also we interested in finding the instrumental variables of the stunting, because stunting is might depend on something or variables, the other variables. So we try to find instrumental variables, and there are many candidates for the IV, and according to the other studies and then subject to the availability of data, we try to construct the instrumental variables based from mother's height, birth order, and adult height. But we want to confirm the regression analysis as well with the propensity score matching. This is already applied by Waldehana. It is a very useful as a comparison to pool data, whether it provides robust results. This is the...
Yeah, Miss Esta, sorry, the presentation remaining 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bu Zakia. And this is here is the regression models. I'll skip it and go to the result. And we see here descriptive statistics show that stunting children with stunting have lower performance in the outcomes. And if we see from the PSM, it is significant that individuals with history of stunting have a lower cognitive performance, especially during school age time and adulthood, as well as lower income and expenditure, and as well as satisfaction. But if we expand the common support by radius matching, we can see here that the significance also covers for the educational outcomes. And this is the result for regression. We see here that the IV is significant almost for all of the outcomes. So basically, being stunting in 5 years old will affect the individual's outcomes during the adulthood. Even though for the cognitive, they faded out during adolescence, but it magnifying again in adulthood. As well as the satisfaction, life satisfaction is also lower between stunted and normal individuals in adulthood. So the study confirmed that childhood stunting bring adverse impacts on economic outcomes for adult Indonesia, and so in line with other studies. And also this finding supports that height may be related to self-perception and expectation within communities. That maybe explain some discrimination due to stature, like some studies in 2016. However, the study noticed that actually height for age Z-score or stunting is not the causal factors of such outcomes because it is more caused by a variety of factors at the community, household, and individuals level, like the UNICEF conceptual framework on stunting explained. And also, we acknowledge some limitation of this study. The first is the substantial level of attrition, quite a lot. We try we try different strategy, but it provides a more biased result. So we keep with all the respondents with complete information. And then also we think even though it is quite length of the period of the study, which is 21 years, but maybe if we have a longer period of study, we can have a better analysis on the other outcomes, such as adult health, because stunting is also very much related with non-communicable disease. So maybe that's all my presentation. We would like to have a constructive comment and appreciate it. Thank you, Bu Zakia.
Yes, okay. Nice presentation about stunting and growth development and also cognition, yeah, Miss Esta, sorry. Yes, for the next, maybe we can wait for the question from the participants. You may ask for, question. Any question from the participants? You may raise hand first about the paper presented. Okay, Miss Ellen.
Yes, Miss.
Yeah. Okay.
I think someone has just dropped a question from chat box.
Okay. Yeah, this is from Miss Asih from Unila, yeah. Miss Esta, there is a question how to ensure that other variables outside the model are completely isolated and whether this analysis can also be extended in a spatial context. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Asih. Very good question. We try to include all the variables that might affect stunting and outcome of stunting, but of course we cannot sure 100% that we don't have omitted bias variable because of sorry, we cannot ensure that we have bias because of omitted variables. That's why one way to reduce that risk is that we using instrumental variables by instrumenting stunting with other variables, which is mother height and birth order. So we hope that we have isolated all of these variables, and then also we use control variables from all the characteristic, not only individual, parental, and as well as household. The household is or also including the wealth index. So we also control for the wealth differences within the household, as well as the infrastructure of the household, like sanitation, water, and electricity. And about the spatial context, but actually we also control the spatial not only for rural, urban, but also from between the eastern and western part of Indonesia. And yes, we can extend it in the spatial context, maybe. But the thing is, the control variables of between eastern and western part of Indonesia was not significant. So I'm not so sure if we extend it. It means that stunting it exists in all area, regardless of the part of the position of the or the region. So I'm not really sure if, of course, it can be extended, but I don't know. Maybe we can try to see whether the spatial also have effect on these studies. Thank you.
Yes.
I hope you answered the question.
Yeah, Miss Asih already answered. Maybe others? You may put your question on the chat box. Okay, there is a question from Muhammad Hanri from UI. Okay, Miss Esta, the question is, the instrument list that you've shown, which instrument did you end up with? And how does it satisfy the exclusion restriction?
Thank you, Pak Hanri, for the question. From the data availability, we use three instrument variables, factors of IVs, which is mother height, birth order, and mother height, birth order, and what's adult height. And between those three IVs, we actually combine those three IVs in each outcome regression. And we combine it and test it whether the combination pass the endogeneity test. So that's why the IV is not the same for each regression. It's because we try to fulfill the endogeneity test to satisfy the exclusion restriction. Maybe something like that.
Thank you. Next, there is Albertus Girik from UNIPA. Okay, good presentation, Bu Esta. Has the issue of poor families having a child stunted been considered?
Thank you, Pa Albert, for the question. Very good. Poor families, we use the poor variables as the control variables. Not only as the control variables, but also we use the poor status, poverty status as the outcome as well. So yes, actually the study already consider the issue of poverty. And because we don't really analyze the cause of being poor on stunting, but we do compare the outcomes of poor between families. In our regression, if we refer to the IV, yes, there is a significantly different outcomes between individuals with history of stunting and the normals, that individuals with stunted tend to have a probability of being poor in the future. But as the poor poverty status itself as the cause of the outcomes is not significant if we use it as the control variables. Is that answering the question, Pa Albert?
Yeah. Any more question, Pa Albert? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, waiting for the next question. Okay, is there any question from the other participants? Okay. Yeah, I think no more question, yeah. And it's enough. Miss Ellen, is it enough for the question?
Yeah, maybe we can move to the next presenter, Miss.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Esta.
Thank you, Bizakia, and participants for the comments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you again, yeah. Okay, the next presenter will be Mr. Hanri. Sorry. About Family Hope Program or package and reduced job search duration for the poor young workforce.
Ibu Zakia, that will be presenting is me, Marisa Ferdiansari.
Oh ya, Marisa Ferdiansari ya. And
Yeah.
Muhammad. Okay, Marisa ya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe allow me to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Is that clear?
Yes.
In the screen?
Yeah, already appeared.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, may I start my presentation?
Yeah, please. The time is
Okay.
yours.
Good morning, everyone. All the participants of the 16th IRSA Conference 2021. Hopefully, we're on good health in this time, this pandemic. My name is Marisa from University of Indonesia. And in this session, I will explain my paper with entitled Family Hope Program PKH and Reduction of Job Search Duration for Low-Income Young Workforce. This joint research paper is about my thesis actually under the supervision of Mr. Muhammad Hanri from University of Indonesia. Yeah, the background of this paper is particularly about youth unemployment. The biggest contribution of unemployment in Indonesia comes from youth unemployment. Data from ILO in 2020 mentioned that in 2019, the youth unemployment rate in Indonesia reached 15.4% compared to countries in Asia. And then in the first quarter of 2020, rise to 16.3%. This figure is relatively high compared to Malaysia as our neighbor country, where in 2020, the youth unemployment in Malaysia rate reached 11%. In globally data shown by the Global Employment Trends in 2020, the youth unemployment rate in Asia Pacific region has increased since 2012. And then in the 2020 will reach is 14.1%. It is high, relatively high also, considering that youth is our hope to encourage economic growth. And then how to reduce unemployment. According to OECD, the primary key in reducing unemployment is reduce the duration of unemployment. One of the way is to reduce the duration of the job search. Poverty is also has a contribution to cause the unemployment. Poverty in parents also affect in their children. And then poverty can cause the children's health to decline and also cause children to drop out of school. UNICEF also mentioned that the importance of policy pillars that include in basic education, social protection, and regulation on child labor as part of an integrated policy to encourage young workers to succeed in the labor market. As we know, the Family Hope Program is one of our government programs to reduce poverty and focus on improving children's health and education. And educate the social assistance, it can help household daily and avoid dependence on their children works. Because we know that it's not easy for the poor family to meet their basic needs, yeah, in the without government helps their basic needs. Therefore, this study, our study aims to address whether PKH can reduce the duration of youth job search. Because up to our knowledge, exposed of this research point to a relation between poverty program, name is PKH, and the job search duration for young people are still scarce. And then our hypothesis for our study is the profession of PKH assistance is negatively related to the duration of the first job search for young people who transition from school to work. Let me mention about the PKH or Family Hope Program. What is the Family Hope Program or PKH? Family Help Program or PKH, which adopted from CCT program, which was first introduction in 3 countries. There are Mexico, Bangladesh, and Brazil. This program is highly recommended by World Bank to be implemented in Indonesia. Why? Because in that time, before 2007, Indonesia has a condition that there are still 6.5 million indigent households with monthly income is low, that only 130,000 rupiah. And then still many cases of malnutrition in children, high rate of maternal mortality, and high rate of children dropping out of school. PKH is aimed to break the chain of poverty by improving children's health and education from the time they are in the womb. There are the PKH targeted is for poor household with women pregnant or lactating mothers, newborn, toddler, and school-age children. This is our literature study. The basic model in our research is proposed by Van der Berg, that the wage is influenced actually in the duration of job search. And then we develop not just the economic variables, but also we adding the various other variables that significant effect to reduce the duration of job search. The other variables we get from many study and source that among others is from McCall state that the unemployment related to the duration of job search, which depends on the wage offer, desired minimum wage, and the opportunity cost of seeking the job employment. And then from Bayard said that the cash transfer used to improve education can result in a better labor market. Bradford and Nielsen is also mentioned that the higher level of education will get a job faster and have a longer tenure in the job. Gender, age, education level, and work experience has also significantly affect the duration of job search. And then for the age, individuals who are mature in age have a higher probability of extending their first job search. And then the people who have clear goal of finding quality work is also can engage in the extensive job search activities. The data and methodology. The data, we use 2 data in here, and the main data is from Indonesia Family Life Survey Wave 5 that conducted in 2014. Why? Because this wave has a question about family help program. And then from the wage that we use from minimum which regional or OMP from BPS in the range years is 2007 to 2014. Why we use EFLS? Because EFLS is the largest longitudinal data in Indonesia that has high rate return to contact to correspondent. And then the dependent variable that we use is the duration of the job search of youth who have graduated from school until they get their first job. And then the number of PKH recipient in this research is 371 household out of 14,204 household. This percentage is only in the survey is 2.55%. And then after we all combining all the variable, the number of observation is 1,331 youth individuals with a range age is 15 to 25 years old from 1,568 household. This is a variable that we use that's also mentioned that I mentioned before. This is a main variable is job search in year, and then the independent variable is total PKH in rupiah. This is the total amount of PKH assistance received in the past year. And then the control variable is the education level, regional minimum wage, high school level national exam score, sex, parent education level, age, urban rural, marital status, job and job sector. methodology. The methodology that we use in this research, we use two methodology. The first is OLS method and propensity score matching method. The OLS method we use to know about the relation for the independent and dependent variables, but it still has bias with the result. And then to eliminate the bias, we use the PSM or propensity score matching. From the OLS that we already developed the model is we reference from Najib. This is the model of our OLS method, that T is the dependent variable, PKH is our main independent variable, that's affect the duration of job search. E is the control variable from education, X is the individual characteristic, and N is the quality of work that carry out, and UMP is the for wage variable that taken from the regional minimum wage. This is the propensity score matching method. Why we use this? That I also mentioned that this method can reduce the bias. So from the result of the OLS, that is still a bias, that we use these two method tends to reduce the bias. This is by Kachova. And the propensity score is used to analyze observational studies that is the data is not randomized. So that they can equate with certain characteristic of randomized control trials. This is the PSM method that we use in this research with 4 ways to know what is the best PSM method. This is 4 ways of PSM is nearest neighbor matching, radius matching, kernel matching, and matching with common support. This is the result of OLS. The first is descriptive analysis. From this descriptive analysis, we know that the average duration of job search of each individuals is 1.98 years. And the average value of PKH assistant received is 23,787 rupiah, and the maximum is 5 million rupiah. And then the average age of the individuals in this observation is 23 years old. And the number of individuals with secondary education level is 71.8%, while the tertiary education is 28.2%. Males is less than females. Females is more, this is 53%, and the married person is 45%, then the unmarried is 55%. Yes, this is the result of the OLS method. We run age specification, and then the last is the best specification. The best model and result is from specification 8. That the result is PKH has a negative and significant effect on the duration of job search, and has the significant in the 90%. Yeah, model specification H is a best model which has a result to support our hypothesis that I mentioned before. And then the individual ability variable is also significantly influenced to reducing the duration of job search. And then the tertiary education level reduce the duration of job search more than the secondary education level. But the parents' education level has no significant effect. Men's is also a higher reduction in the duration of their job search than a woman. But age and regional minimum wage is has a same result to increase the duration of job search. In the PSM method, this is the descriptive analysis. PSM is divided to group. One is treatment and the control. The treatment group has 29 individual observation, and then the control group has 1,302 individual observation. This is the four-way method of PSM. The best result is from kernel matching, which has a 90% confidence level compared to other way. After we bootstrap method to perform this result. And we can see in the ATE or average treatment effect that this propensity score matching obtain a value is minus 0.309, which means that the value is PKH treatment on the average decrease the duration of job search by 0.309 years or 3.7 months in the treated to the control group. The conclusion of this research is PKH has a negative effect to decrease the duration of youth first job search by 0.309 years or 3.7 months. The decrease in the duration of job search is also influenced by internal factors, which is the level of individuals' ability to enter the labor market. And then the quality of work as proxied by employment status is also had a negative significant effect on job search length. This is our suggest to implication of government policy that PKH can be extended to other poor communities that have not received this program, and then provide financial support for children from low income families to attend tertiary education. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for the attention.
Yes. Okay, good presentation, Miss Marisa. Yes. Okay, this also such an issue we face today, yeah. Okay, for the participants who have question, you may put your question on the chat box. Yeah, you may ask for the question, participants. Okay. So how long have you prepared this presentation, Miss? The paper, I mean.
The paper, yeah. This is during my thesis.
Nice.
Yeah, this is during my thesis work is about 6 months, yeah,
Okay.
in proximity.
Miss Marisa, there is a question. If your study differentiate the type of job they seek from LIPI, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Ibu Esta. This is the different type of job that they seek is into the the variable is a quality of job. Yeah, this is five variable in here, that is self-employed, government worker, private worker, unpaid family, casual worker, and casual worker in not in agriculture. All the type of work is, all of it is has a result is negatively effect to the duration of job search. So all the type of the job is have a effect to the duration, to increase to decrease the duration of job search. Why? Because maybe probably that the individual or youth people doesn't see what is the job type, or why I should take the job, all the kind of the type of job they want to in this job, because they want to get the wage of those job. That's it.
Okay, yes. That's the answer, yeah, Miss Esta. Next, Miss Marisa, there is a question from Astrid Nuraini from Tangerang City. Have you considered whether the recipients also receive other social assistance program?
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Astrid, for the good question. Yeah, honestly, in this research, we not to use other social assistant. Yeah, why? Because we just focus and actually in PKH in this time. Why? Because we focus to the family that develop their children to entering the job market. That's why we just only focus in this social assistant like that. Maybe in the next research, I will put this variable in the next research. Thank you for the input, Bu Astrid.
Okay. Next from Holy Glora. Is there any specific recommendation for strengthening PKH programs such as assistancy for preparing young labor entering their first job?
Yeah. Thank you, Ibu Holly, for the good question. Yeah, to strengthening this recommendation, except not just only to extend, not just only to extend this PKH to others household that doesn't receive the PKH, but maybe that I can state that maybe PKH we can strengthen with the like family develop, or to encourage the children in those family with the about the how to work, and then or in the high level they can make another meeting, maybe in this group, in the PKH and the PKH recipient. Maybe in those group they can give more than about like a pelatihan, maybe in this group, so that the children in the high school knowing about the how to entering job market. Maybe that's what can I state about to strengthening the recommendation. Thank you, Bu Holly.
Okay. Miss Marisa, there is a statement about, from Miss Astrid. maybe you can use the dummy variable since maybe the effect can also gain from other programs as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Ibu Astrid. Yeah, another variable from the social assistance, like maybe such as PIP, yeah, Indonesian like Kartu Indonesia Pintar, ya, that is give for the children. Maybe maybe it one of those assistants can push or can encourage to this duration of job search. Maybe it can push the individual, the youth to maybe to easily to entering the labor market. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Astrid, Bu Astrid, for the input.
Yes. Yeah, the program for raising economy is already good, yeah, in Indonesia, but maybe the application should be more. Okay, any more question? 1 minute left. Okay, there is, oh ya, mungkin Bu Astrid ingin bersuara, boleh Ibu, silakan open mic ya. You may open. Yeah.
Thank you. Since my research is also use the IFLS 5 and use the social assistance data. So in IFLS, there are many kinds of social assistance programs. So maybe you can see that they have BSM and bidik misi. So maybe they can encourage them to have a better education or something. Maybe that can, I mean, at least it will reduce the bias by not only PKH, also since the program said that the receiver of PKH also eligible to have other kind of social assistance programs such as Raskin and so on. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Bu Astrid.
Yeah, I think the time is done. Yeah, thank you for the presentation and see you again, Miss Marisa.
Thank you, Bu
Yeah.
Zaki.
Yeah. Okay, for the last presenter. Yeah, the last presenter will be Miss Siti Ayu Satiti from Universitas Padjajaran about the child labor's effect on future earning of millennials, the case of Indonesia.
Okay, thank you very much for Ms. Zakia. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, clear. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to share my screen, yeah.
Please.
Wait. Okay. Can you see my presentations, Ms. Zakia? Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, the time is yours. You may start.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all in a good health and conditions in the middle of this pandemic. My name is Ayu Satiti. I'm an undergraduate student from Department of Economics, Universitas Padjajaran. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to present my study in front of Miss Esta Lestari and Miss Marisa and everyone in this room. This is actually my first time to present my study at a conference, so I'm a bit nervous and I would like to apologize in advance if I make a mistake. And together with Mr. Muhammad Fahmi as my supervisor and the co-author, we wrote this very simple study titled The Child Labor's Effect on Future Earnings of Millennials, the Case of Indonesia. So for the research background, so for the last 20 years, there has been increased attentions and concerns on the detrimental effect of child labor on children's development, both in policy and literature debate. From theoretical literature, it is assumed that child labor has negative consequences, where according to Dumas in 2012, child labor assumes to hinder learning performance since it lowers children's time allocations to studying, playing, and schooling. In addition, from the policy perspective, there's perceptions that the worldwide returns for eliminating child labor are very large. However, despite the growing movement to ban and eliminate child labor, this problem is still one of the most unresolved issues in the world, because according to the latest report by ILO in 2017, there are around 152 million children in the world are engaged in child labor between the ages of 5 and 17 years old, of which 73 million of them were working in hazardous conditions. And lastly, the general assumptions that child labor is destructive to human capital is ambiguous, because on one hand, child labor might harm children's intellectual and human capital development by interfering with formal educations, lowering the time for children to study and play, in which hinders their cognitive and emotional growth, where, as we know, according to Gary Becker in 1964, one of the most important determinants to explain the income differences in the labor market is human capital. Thus, these underdeveloped human capitals from a young age could result in a worse labor market and lower earnings in the future. But on the other hand, we might also underestimate the possible benefit from child labor as a means to survive from poverty, or may provide additional income for the family to finance the children's educations. We also might underestimate other essentialisms such as communications, vocational skills, and work ethic that could be the potential outcome from child labor that will increase the future incomes in the future. Thus, the empirical analysis from the twofold effect of child labor is needed to be clarified. Therefore, the main objective of this study is to ascertain the long-term effect of child labor to human capital accumulations and the earnings using longitudinal data sets from Indonesia. First, we try to estimate the long-term 14 years period effect of child labor to the future earnings of Indonesian millennials. And second and third, we try to estimate the long-term 14 years period effect of child labor to human capital accumulation using cognitive and mathematics scores as a proxy of human capital. There are already abundant literature that estimate the medium-term effect of child labor to human capital accumulations, where many of these studies from specific country in general, they found there is a negative relationship between child labor and human capital accumulations to a respective degree, whereas in Indonesia, a latest study by Siregar and Hadi in 2017, they found a negative effect of child labor on the growth of mathematics and lung capacity in the next 7 years. But on the other hand, there are also some studies that found a positive relationship between child labor and human capital. For example, a study by Dumas in 2012 in Senegal, they found that child work does not negatively affect learning capabilities. Instead, child labor in Senegal had a positive impact on their scores in oral mathematics. But unfortunately, there are only a few studies that have investigated the long-term effect of child labor on future earnings, probably because the limitations of the longitudinal data in some countries. But a recent study by Emerson and Souza in 2011, they found that formal child labor who was working below 13 in Brazil earn less in their adulthood. And recent study by Pozo in 2017 in Ecuadorian found that formal child labor significantly had lower wages in numerous cohorts, both using OLS and instrumental variables technique. And last, Beagle, Dehajeti, and Getty in 2009 used data from Vietnam. They found the negative effect of child labor on school attendance, but they also found that children who work while attending school have a higher probability of wage in their adulthood. The data. So the data we use in this study are taken from longitudinal data set from Indonesia Family Life Survey. IFLS is a large-scale longitudinal data survey of individual and household in which it collects data from socioeconomics to health data of the respondent. IFLS also contains community survey to collect data about school, road, electricity, health, and etc. In addition, in 2000 and 2014 surveys, the survey obtains specific child labor module and mathematics and cognitive tests. In this study, we used the 2000 and 2014 waves to understand the long-term effect of child labor. And IFLS waves 3 and 5 also include mathematics and cognitive tests. The cognitive tests are based on reference-colored progressive matrices and numeracy questions. The cognitive test contains 12 for matchings problem, and the mathematics test contains 5 calculation problem. Following previous study by Siregar and Anshory in 2017, the study also used that module in 2000 and 2014 waves to measure human capital accumulations of the respondent. The independent variable is child labor, measured from the economic activity they had engaged inside or outside the household. This study, the sample was restricted to specific criteria. First, we selected children who were aged between 7 to 14 years old in the year 2000, since the prevalence of children who work at 6 and younger are very low. And second, following this study by Beagle in 2009, we restrict our sample to children who enrolled in school in 2000. And finally, since the respondents was born between 1986 and 1992, we can group them as millennials generations. Next, the model. The effect of child labor on future earning is estimated using Heckman selections model to correct the selections bias due to the mixedness of the non-random data and incidental truncations, where around 52% of the wage sample in the study were missing. The Heckman selections model would be conducted to determine the factors affecting individuals' decisions to enter the labor force at the selection stage and the factors affecting individual wage at the outcome stage. In this model, the control variables are based on the typical Minserian framework on schooling on adult earnings. The explanatory variables include years of education, age squared, marital status, gender, and the locations in the year 2014. The output is the log wage measured from the total annual income in rupiah in 2014 survey. To measure the long-term effect of child labor on human capital accumulations, the dependent variables are cognitive and mathematics score in 2014. Again, to estimate the long-term effect of child labor on human capital accumulations using OLS, the cognitive scores ranges from 0 to 12, and the mathematics scores ranges from 0 to 5, with control variables such as age squared, years of schooling, and urban. So this table presents the summary statistic of the respondent. Around 8.8% of the model were engaged in child labor in 2000. In 2014, the average age of the sample was 24 years old, and about 46.9% of the model were male, and 100% of the respondents were attended school in the year 2000. The average years of schooling of the respondents are 12 years, with the highest years of education is 18 years, and the lowest is 1 year of schooling. And around 53% of the respondents were married, and approximately 63% live in the urban area. And as we can see, there is missing sample and the observations of the log wage. So the results of the child labor on future earnings using OLS and Heckman selections. Both OLS and Heckman selections models suggest that the long-term effect of child labor significantly harm wage. Although both model coefficients are consistent, using the Heckman selections model indicates a larger outcome. The significant negative effect between child labor and long-term earning is consistent with the previous study by Emerson and Souza and Pozo. Result from the Heckman selections model, marital status, male and urban predictors are statistically significant at the selection stage, except for child labor. Among the significant predictors, male and urban positively impact the probability of individuals entering labor force participations, except for the marital status. And at the outcome stage, in terms of predictors, child labor years of schooling are statistically significant, except for age and age squared. And among the critical variables, years of education shows a positive influence on wage, but on the other hand, child labor shows a negative impact on compensations and statistically significant than who don't work during their childhood. Age as a proxy of experience positively affects salary, and higher education is associated with higher earning consistent with the prior expectations based on Minserian framework. So the study found that in Indonesia, millennials who were child labor earned 30% less than millennials who began work in adulthood, in which consistent with previous study. The estimation supports the view that child labor lowers the time allocations for children for schooling, studying, and playing, hindering their human capital accumulations that worsens the labor market. And further, this study, further the study estimates the 14 years long-term effect of child labor on cognitive and mathematics score in their 20s, as seen in this table. Cognitive score and mathematics score in 2000s associated with a significant positive relationship on cognitive score and mathematics score in 2014, in which indicates the innate ability of the respondent, and years of schooling have a substantial positive impact on both cognitive and mathematics score. The study found a negative effect of child labor and the growth of mathematical ability consistent with the findings by Sims, Riadama, and Suryahadin 2017 that estimate the 7-year long-term impact of child labor on human capital accumulations in Indonesia. Although the result shows the positive effect of child labor on the cognitive score, we cannot really draw meaningful interpretations on both of these results because the results are not statistically significant. In conclusion, we find a substantial adverse effect of child labor on their future earnings in their 20s using both OLS and Heckman selection model. And furthermore, the study found that in Indonesia, millennials who were child labor earned 30% less than millennials who began work in adulthood, in which consistent with previous study. The estimations of the findings suggest that the cost of child labor on future earning caused by the trade-off between schooling and educational attainment. I think that's all for my presentations. There are some limitations of my knowledge in this subject, but I would very much appreciate any kind of comments or suggestions to prove this study. Thank you very much.
Yes, okay, nice presentation, Miss Ayu. Okay, yes, the issues are coming also today. Yeah, some kids don't go to school and they work. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the next question, is there question from the participant? Please, you may put your question in the chat box. So, Ms. Ayu, how long have you made this paper?
Well, I think around seven months, because this is actually my thesis for my undergraduate. So yeah, I think it's about 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you have finished your study this year, yeah, this semester?
Yeah, I'm a final undergraduate student.
Okay. Yes, is there question, Mr. and Mrs. and the participants?
Excuse me, Bu Zakia. May I ask question to Ayu?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, please.
Thank you. A very nice presentation, Ayu.
Yeah.
I'm just wonder that okay.
Yeah.
Ayu, I'm interested in your result. In your result, it's shown the result related to the cognitive outcomes. Your result shows that the cognitive childhood and in between doesn't have any impact in wage. But your result also shows that there's no really difference between children children doing work and without work. And then there, maybe I have to arrange the question.
I think I get.
The main point is, can you explain why there is a significant result between child labor and the income, but there is no significant result between the cognitive and the wage? Because if, in my perception, if the child labor is significantly affect the wage, it is because they have lower cognitive outcomes, right? But in fact, your study shows that the cognitive doesn't have a significant impact on the wage. So do you anticipate this result and or explain it more? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the questions, Miss Esta. So the relationship between child labor and wage is probably because the trade-off between children's time allocations for studying and working. So the more time children, so if children had more time to studying, so they're, if children had more time to schooling, then they will gain more cognitive development. But okay, sorry, I'm very nervous. I'm very sorry. I'll try to answer the questions again.
Yeah, just calm down.
So why there is no relationship between cognitive scores and wage in my OLS estimations is probably because there's this one study that explained that cognitive score is still developing when the individuals is 20 years old. That's probably why cognitive, that's probably why I can really find positive relationship between cognitive scores and wage, because in their adulthood, the cognitive development of individual, it's still developed. If you get my answer, I'm sorry, Miss Esta.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ayu.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. I thank you, Miss.
So is this your first conference?
Yeah, this is actually my conference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm very sorry if my answer didn't really answer the questions for Esta before.
Yeah.
But I would really, I will further investigate relationship between cognitive score and wage and revise my study on the subject. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, the other question maybe, please.
Miss Rahmaning Tias has raised her hand.
Miss Rahmaning Tias, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, maybe I'm not very get into these topics, but yeah, I have a children also. I'm thinking about that. Of course, poverty is the primary reason for children are sent to work, and sadly, child labor keeps children from getting their education. They need to break the cycles of poverty. In your perspective, just for general, do you think in the future, after these children finish their school, they still keep working on this area of subject of work, or they from my perspective, if I work early in a very early age, I'm thinking that in the future maybe I continue this work, or maybe I'm not continue this work. In your perspective, maybe you can estimate, or you have a data. Do you think that children still keep working on this area, informal area, or they struggle to, because they have primary information that maybe this work is not good, then in the future they want to not to work in this this kind of work?
Okay.
For example, like in the ILO data, about 70% child labor work in agriculture. I'm thinking that this is kind of potential issue for agriculture, because they have an information from their parents, family as a family labor. And the issue also for the sustainability of agriculture production. Maybe if these children can continue and can heritage the information of agriculture from their parents, they can continue work as a agriculture or as a farmers, for example, like that.
Okay, thank you very much for the question.
Yeah.
So based on my previous study, while I was doing the research, I read a study by Emerson Souza. They found that there's a negative relationship between child labor who is working below the age of 13 years old, but there's a positive impact of child labor on their wage if they were working after the age of 13 years and more. And we also might unintentionally assume child labor as children who work in hazardous conditions, but there are some type of work of children that actually beneficial for the growth of development, for the growth of their cognitive development. For example, that is why there are some kind of part-time job for children in developing country. So I think it's from my own perspective, I think it's based on what type of work and the age that the children started to work. If they are too young to understand about the matter, then the child labor could be destructive to their emotional growth. But at certain age, I think the information from the child labor itself could be potentials for the individuals. Yeah. I think, did I answer your questions, Ms. Rahmat?
Yeah, and need to be discussed. But yeah, I have an intuition from from our short discussion. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The time is over. I think we have finished well. Thank you, Miss Ayu, for the last presenter.
Thank you, Ms. Zakia.
Yeah, good luck for the next activities. Yeah.